It is Monday again, and I go to my school. Our teacher asks us what we did at the weekend. I say that I was at work on Saturday. I say that I can already do my work well. I say that I am happy when I can speak to our customers. When I speak, one of the girls in the class asks me, "What happened to your voice? You sound very different from what we heard last week. Your pronunciation is very good." I smile and say, "Thank you. I used shadowing on Saturday evening, after my work, and the whole Sunday. I tried to speak like a native speaker. I know that it is not perfect, but I also see a big change in my pronunciation." Our teacher asks if other students tried to practice shadowing. 3 students say yes. One of them is the student from South Korea. He also likes this technique. One student says that she tried the technique, but her mouth was in pain after 5 minutes of shadowing, and she stopped. She also says that she wasn't always able to repeat everything because the recording was very fast for her. Our teacher says, "Thank you for trying out this technique. If you do shadowing for the first time and your mouth is in pain after 5 minutes, you are doing it correctly. You need to train your muscles to this new way of speaking. It is like going to the gym for the first time. Your muscles can hurt if they are not trained. If the muscles in your mouth hurt, you can take a break after 5 minutes of shadowing and continue a bit later. With every 5 minutes of practice, your pronunciation gets better." Shadowing also has other advantages. You practice the correct pronunciation in English, and you also practice other things. For example, intonation, rhythm, and connecting words in whole sentences. I know that at the beginning the recording can sometimes be very fast for you. If this happens, you can repeat only the first or the last word in the sentence. With practice, you will be able to repeat more. I say that it is true. On Saturday, when I started with shadowing, it was difficult for me. But on Sunday evening, it was easy to repeat what I heard. Then I have a question for our teacher. I tell her that I looked at www.grammar-and-level.com. The website is interesting, but I don't know what level is for me because I don't know how many words I know. Our teacher asks other students if they know how many words they know in English. It is interesting to see that nobody knows. We know that we are intermediate students, but we don't know how many words we know. Our teacher says, "There is a website for people who study foreign languages. You can do a test there, and you can know how many words you know. The test has only 2 steps, and it is really simple. The name of the website is www.testlanguages.com. You can do the test every month, and you can see how much you improve during that month. If you want, you can now take your smartphones, go to that website, and do the test. I am really interested in knowing how many words I know. I do the test immediately. I find out that I know 2,100 words in English. Most of the students know between 2,000 and 2,200 words. Only Monica and the boy from South Korea know 2,500 words. Our teacher says, So you can see that when you go to www.grammarandlevel.com, you should already know grammar from level 2. You can start using grammar from level 3 because level 3 is for students who know between 2,000 and 3,000 words. Test your progress every month. Now, how to handle mistakes. On Tuesday, I go to school again. One student asks our teacher an interesting question. She says, "I want to practice speaking with people around me, but I don't want to make mistakes. I don't want to look stupid. Can you help me?" Our teacher says, "Making mistakes is a very interesting topic. There are a lot of opinions on this topic. I want to show you what I believe is the best to do. I have a lot of experience with this because I also learn new languages. For example, now I am learning Spanish. When I speak Spanish, I don't care if I make mistakes or not. The reason why I don't care about mistakes is simple. When I learned my native language, I didn't care about making mistakes. Mistakes weren't important for me. My main goal when I use any language is to say my ideas. It is all I know. When I read a lot, speak, and do shadowing, my Spanish will be better and better. I know that this can look very simple, but it is my opinion. This is what I learned after many years of teaching and learning languages. It works very well for me and many of my students. When I speak, I only concentrate on speaking. At the moment, I know 1,500 words in Spanish. It is the level of a 2-year-old child. 2-year-old children make a lot of mistakes when they speak, but they don't care about their mistakes. They continue using their native language, and when they are 3 years old, they make very few mistakes. When they are 4 years old, they usually speak very well. You can do the same. Now, most of you know about 2,000 words, so it is absolutely okay to make mistakes from time to time. When you continue using English, there will be fewer and fewer mistakes in your speaking. It is not possible to go to a higher level if you don't make mistakes. When you practice English, it is okay not to be perfect. Perfection comes with practice. All people who started to learn English started from the beginning, from the same level, from level 0. Learning languages is like learning to play a musical instrument. It needs to be trained. When you start your training, it is not perfect at the beginning, and you make mistakes. It is normal. Take it as a necessary part of your learning process. If you don't go through this period of making mistakes, you can't get to higher levels. When you continue to use English, the mistakes can, step by step, go away. If you want to make fewer and fewer mistakes, do a lot of reading and shadowing. When you read, you can read aloud. It can also help you make fewer mistakes in real conversations. Care only about exchanging ideas. Don't care about making mistakes. When you speak, you practice changing your ideas to words. You don't learn grammar or words when speaking. You have other activities for it. Don't worry. Everybody who learns a foreign language makes mistakes. Sometimes, famous people, bosses of big companies, or politicians make mistakes too. When you listen to these people on TV, you see that they don't care about mistakes. They care about what is important and it is saying their ideas. You can do the same. Does it make sense? The girl says, "Yes, thank you. If you don't want to make mistakes, do a lot of reading and shadowing." Lesson 8. How to Remember Words. Level 1. On Wednesday, I go to school again. At the beginning of the lesson, one student says, "I started to read more. I feel that it is good for me. I can see how my grammar is better, but I have a problem. When I read and I don't know a word, I look at the word in a dictionary. Then I continue reading. Sometimes, when I see the same word again 10 minutes later, I don't remember the word, and I have to look at it again. Can you help me to remember the words better?" Our teacher says that it is an interesting question, and she gives this explanation. It is normal that you don't remember the new word immediately. Usually you will have to look at the word 5 times before you remember it. There will also be words which you will have to see 10 or 15 times. These words are usually verbs. When we learn a new word, the word goes through phases. Only when you achieve the last phase will you remember the word very well. There are 5 of these phases. We can look at them now. The first phase is the moment when you see the word for the first time, and you don't know the word. You look at the word in the dictionary. The second phase is the moment when you see the word for the second time. You know that you saw this word before, but you still don't remember its meaning. You look at the word in the dictionary again. The third phase is the moment when you see the word again, and you feel what it could mean, but you are not sure. For example, you know that the word is some kind of object, some animal, or a verb. The fourth phase is the moment when you already know what the word means when you see it, but you are not able to remember the word when you want to say it. When this phase happens, the word is in your passive vocabulary. The fifth phase is the moment when you are able to use the word when you speak. Now you can see there are 5 phases altogether. Do you understand now why it is not possible to remember a new word when you see it for the first time? It is usually not possible to jump across all the phases with the first meeting with the word. You have to see or hear every word many times, and let the word go through all the phases. You can be happy not only when you learn a new word perfectly, but also when you get from one phase to the other. When it happens, you are closer to the final goal, and it is to use the word without problems in everyday communication. It is interesting to me. I didn't know about these phases, but it is all logical. I also have this experience when I look at a new word in the dictionary, but 2 minutes later, I don't know what the word means, and I have to look at the word again. I feel stupid when I don't remember the word. Now I know that it is okay not to remember the word forever when I see it for the first time. I need more meetings with the word before I can use the word well. After school, I go to my football training. Our coach tells us that there is a match on Saturday. The school team will play against another school team from Cambridge. Our coach tells me to come and play for the school team. I am very happy, and I am looking forward to the Saturday match. When you want to remember a new word, you need to see or hear the word about 10 times. Lesson 9. How to improve. Listening. The next day, I go to school again. One of the students has an important question. He wants to know how to improve his listening skills. He wants to know what the best method is. Our teacher says, "Thank you for your question." Good listening skills are very important for communication. If you don't understand what people are saying, it will be difficult for you to speak with them. There are a lot of materials on the internet for students of English. Some students can have a problem choosing the right listening materials for them. Now I want to tell you what materials you can use for listening. There are 2 types of materials which you can use for listening. You can listen to some audio, or you can watch a film. These are 2 different types of materials. It is good to know 95% of the words or more if the audio has a lot of new words. Read the text first, if possible, and look at all new words in the dictionary. When you practice listening, you practice getting information from a spoken language. You don't try to learn new words. Of course, sometimes you can learn new words, but it is not the main goal. When you listen, concentrate on getting information from spoken English. It is important to use materials at your level of English. For example, you can use books in simplified English which have an audio recording. I really recommend these books to you. They are fantastic because you can choose a book at your level of English. When you have such a book, read the book first, and then listen to the recording at home, or when you travel. You can read 2 great books at www.robinsoncrusoeinls.com or www.thelittleprinceins.com. You can also visit www.newsinlevels.com if you like listening to the news. All these materials are in 3 levels of English. The second type of materials for listening practice are films and videos on www.youtube.com. These are also very good. You can start to use them when you know 2,000 words in English or more. This is what you should do with a film. Watch it for the first time with subtitles so that you know the story of the film. Then, watch the film without subtitles. If you like the film very much, you can watch it more than once. When you watch one film many times, with every view you can understand more. It is also good to watch videos on the internet about interesting subjects. For example, if you like nature, you can watch documentaries about nature. You can also watch reality shows. Reality shows are much easier to understand than films or documentaries because the structure of the show is usually the same. It is necessary to have at least 30 minutes of listening every day. When you listen to English materials, always look at what you already understand. It can be only 10% at the beginning. It is better than 0%. Continue to listen and soon it can be 20 or 30%. Always look at what you already know. Be happy for every new sentence which you understand. Does this information help you? Yes, says the student. Thank you. The listening topic is very interesting for me. Now I know what to do when I want to be better at listening. When you want to be good at listening, listen for 30 minutes every day. What you need before you start. On Friday, we have an interesting conversation in our class. Our teacher has a question for us. She asks, "Do you remember your first impulse to learn English? Do you remember the moment when you started to learn English?" I say that I remember the moment when I started to be interested in English. My teacher says, "Can you tell us about this moment?" I say, "Yes." First, I have to say that English wasn't always my favorite subject. I started to learn English in high school. At the beginning, it was very difficult for me. I didn't understand the structure of the language. It was illogical to me. I tried to remember words. I tried to learn grammar, but it was very hard for me. When I finished high school, I was still only a beginner. I couldn't speak English, and I believed that I couldn't learn this language. I believed that English wasn't for me. Then something happened. I always liked music, and when I was 20, I started to listen to the Beatles. I wanted to understand their songs, so I started to translate the texts of their songs. Slowly, I understood more and more. Then I met two ladies from England on a train. We had a simple conversation, but it helped me very much. I started to believe that I could learn English. From that moment, I was working on my English almost every day, and I was getting better and better. Then, I started to go to this school. My teacher thanks me for telling my story. She also tells me, "Here is something very interesting about your story. First, you didn't have motivation to learn English. Then you had motivation. You wanted to understand songs. You can see that motivation is very important. When you have it, you can learn English. When you don't have it, it is very hard to be successful." Then, our teacher asks everybody in the class about their motivation to learn English. The stories are very interesting. One girl's motivation is to be able to read historical books in original English. One student wants to be a professional tennis coach in England. He wants to speak perfect English before he starts his career as a coach. One woman wants to work for a big international company, and she needs English for her job. I can see that everybody has some motivation to use English in real life, or to get information from books. At the end of the lesson, our teacher asks us if we like English. I say, "I didn't like English at my high school, but now I like it a lot. I can see how useful it is to know this language." Our teacher says, "This is another important factor when you learn a new language. It is good when you like something which is connected to English. It can be people, music, culture, or history. If you like English, it is easier for you to learn it. If you want to communicate in English, it is good to know 3,000 words or more. If you don't like English, it is more difficult to find time to practice. Then, it is difficult to get to the level of 3,000 words." I can agree with my teacher. Now I like the Beatles, but also my teacher and my boss, who is also English. I also like English humor. Now it is much easier for me to find time to practice English every day. On Saturday, I go to play football for my school team. We have some very good players on our team, and we win 3-2. We are all very happy. We go to the pub after the match, and we celebrate our victory. When you want to learn English, You need to have motivation to use English every day. How to learn 3,000 words. In the next lesson, one of the students asks our teacher this question. You say that it is good to know 3,000 words. Where can I find these 3,000 words? My teacher says, you can find a list of the 3,000 most frequent words in English on the internet, but it is difficult to learn new words from this list. These words are not connected with any story. You don't learn what other words are connected with these words in sentences. This system works only for some words. These are basic words which describe things and people around us. For example, mother, father, apple, blue, orange, dog, cat, book, car, house, city, boy, girl, water, cinema, or paper. These are words which represent something you can imagine easily. For example, when you learn the word dog, you can imagine easily what it is. You have a clear idea in your head. I tried to learn grammar, but it was very hard for me. When I finished high school, I was still only a beginner. I couldn't speak English, and I believed that I couldn't learn this language. I believed that English wasn't for me. Then something happened. I always liked music, and when I was 20, I started to listen to the Beatles. I wanted to understand their songs, so I started to translate the texts of their songs. Slowly, I understood more and more. Then I met two ladies from England on a train. We had a simple conversation, but it helped me very much. I started to believe that I could learn English. From that moment, I was working on my English almost every day, and I was getting better and better. Then, I started to go to this school. My teacher thanks me for telling my story. She also tells me, here is something very interesting about your story. First, you didn't have motivation to learn English. Then, you had motivation. You wanted to understand songs. You can see that motivation is very important. When you have it, you can learn English. When you don't have it, it is very hard to be successful. Then, our teacher asks everybody in the class about their motivation to learn English. The stories are very interesting. One girl's motivation is to be able to read historical books in original English. One student wants to be a professional tennis coach in England. He wants to speak perfect English before he starts his career as a coach. One woman wants to work for a big international company, and she needs English for her job. I can see that everybody has some motivation to use English in real life, or to get information from books. At the end of the lesson, our teacher asks us if we like English. I say, I didn't like English at my high school, but now I like it a lot. I can see how useful it is to know this language. Our teacher says, this is another important factor when you learn a new language. It is good when you like something which is connected to English. It can be people, music, culture, or history. If you like English, it is easier for you to learn it. If you want to communicate in English, it is good to know 3,000 words or more. If you don't like English, it is more difficult to find time to practice. Then, it is difficult to get to the level of 3,000 words. I can agree with my teacher. Now I like the Beatles, but also my teacher and my boss, who is also English. I also like English humor. Now it is much easier for me to find time to practice English every day. On Saturday, I go to play football for my school team. We have some very good players on our team, and we win 3-2. We are all very happy. We go to the pub after the match, and we celebrate our victory. When you want to learn English, you need to have motivation to use English every day. How to learn 3,000 words. In the next lesson, one of the students asks our teacher this question. You say that it is good to know 3,000 words. Where can I find these 3,000 words? My teacher says, you can find a list of the 3,000 most frequent words in English on the internet, but it is difficult to learn new words from this list. These words are not connected with any story. You don't learn what other words are connected with these words in sentences. This system works only for some words. These are basic words which describe things and people around us. For example, mother, father, apple, blue, orange, dog, cat, book, car, house, city, boy, girl, water, cinema, or paper. These are words which represent something you can imagine easily. For example, when you learn the word dog, you can imagine easily what it is. You have a clear idea in your head. They can come to our cafe every day. I think that our boss is a good businesswoman. She does everything possible to make our customers happy. It is true that we have a lot of customers. Our cafe is busy every day. When you want to understand people with a special accent, listen to audio with their accent for some time. The next day at school, I tell my teacher about my experience with my boss and the two ladies who didn't speak English very well. Our teacher says, "Great. Your boss must be a very clever woman. It is true that you can communicate with everybody. People who speak English very well can have a conversation with those who are at the beginning of their journey. Today, we can speak about different levels of English and what you can do at these levels. Let's start with the lowest level of 1,000 words. At this level, students can speak about some basic things from everyday life. The speaking is very limited, but it is already possible to communicate, slowly and for a short time, with people who want to speak with you. Your sentences are short, usually 4 words. If the others also speak in short sentences, you can have a basic conversation. When students move to a higher level, which is 2,000 words, the conversations are easier and the sentences are longer. This is the level at which you are right now. You can speak about many things from your life, such as family, hobbies, job, and traveling. Sometimes, you may have a problem when you want to have a deeper conversation on some topics, but this level is usually good enough for everyday use of English. If you want to be able to have deeper conversations on many topics, it's good to know 3,000 words. It's a good goal for students of English. Of course, you can learn more than 3,000 words, and with more words, it becomes easier for you to communicate in English. But 3,000 words is the level that is usually enough for communicating in English about almost everything. I think that the two ladies at your cafe knew about 1,000 words. Your boss went to their level and had a basic conversation with them. After my school, I go to work. The two ladies come to our cafe again. They also bring 2 of their friends. It's my turn to serve them. I speak to them in simple, short sentences. They understand me. This is great. They tell me that they are tourists from Japan and that they like our cafe because people understand them here. What to do when you are shy. On Thursday, I go to school again. One student has a very interesting question. She says, "I am very shy when I have to speak English. Can you help me? I don't want to be so shy." Our teacher says, "It is true that when we use foreign languages, it is natural to be shy. We do something we don't know perfectly, and the possibility of making a mistake is very high. I was also very shy when I learned foreign languages. I remember well how I was afraid to make a mistake. When I made a mistake, I felt stupid, and sometimes my face turned red. But now it's different. I use languages for communication. I care only about communication. You know that I am learning Spanish these days. Sometimes I make a mistake, but it doesn't stop me from using Spanish. It's true that sometimes I still feel shy when I have to speak Spanish, and sometimes my face turns red, but I don't care much about it. It's a natural human feeling, and it's always a short moment. I continue using Spanish because I know that only by using it can I get better. I also try to see things as they are. I am a student, and I am on the way to speaking good Spanish. It's not possible to jump many levels in one day. A beginner can't be a perfect speaker in 1 hour. I also see what I mean to people around me. When I already speak some Spanish, I have value to people who speak Spanish. You can see the same when you already speak some English. You can have a conversation with other people in English. That's great. Look at what you already know. You know 2,000 words. You have already gone from 0 to 2,000 words. Be happy for that. Some students feel that to know English means to be able to speak like a native speaker, to have perfect pronunciation, perfect grammar, and speak perfectly without any mistakes. They think that if they are not doing that, they don't know English. They are shy because they are not perfect. These students are very hard on themselves, and it is not necessary. You are great because you already speak some English. Continue working on your English, and your shyness can, step by step, go away. I like what our teacher tells us. I am also sometimes shy. I know that I have to practice speaking a lot, but in some situations I don't want to look stupid, and I don't speak as much as I can. I decide to be braver in these situations and use them to practice more. Then one student says, "Sometimes I want to say something, but I don't know the word I want to say. Then I stop and don't know what to do. In that situation, I feel very stupid. The next time I can speak English, I don't want to speak because I don't want to be in this stupid situation again. Can you help me with this?" Our teacher says, "When you start to speak English, you have to prepare for one thing. A situation when you don't know a word that you want to say. In such a situation, you have to learn how to describe the word. This ability is very important when you learn a new language. You need to learn this ability. You need to train how to express ideas with the vocabulary you have. For example, you don't know how to say the word key. You can describe it as a small thing for opening a door. You also describe words in your native language, but usually you don't know it. If you don't know the word for something, you simply describe it to the other person so that they understand what it is. You can do the same thing in English, but you really need to train this ability. Thinking aloud is a very good technique to use when you want to be able to describe well. Use thinking aloud every day, and your ability to describe things can be better. You can learn English only when you use English. It's okay to be shy, but it can't stop you from using English.